The 49ers may have had a disappointing 2024 season, but their 2024 draft class looking sexy. What's up, guys? We are talking about the 2024 draft class after one season. Obviously, this is not the season anybody wanted, going from losing in the Super Bowl to a 6-11 finish for these 49ers and last in their division is not what I think anybody expected across the league. But I will say this team was riddled with injuries. There were a lot of issues. And yeah, I do think a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover after multiple years of getting so close and not getting there. It kind of makes sense for a lot of the veteran players to have a down year just from just a human psychological standpoint. That's real. I mean, these guys aren't playing cards. These are real people, right? With all that said, this draft class is good. Like, I'll be ranking this draft class after I'm done with this series. I'm going to do like a top 10 ranking. If the 49ers aren't at least in the top 5, I'd be shocked. Probably top 3, maybe best. Like, genuinely, we're in that kind of conversation. Really strong draft class. Now, it's not as top heavy as maybe some other draft classes, but look, it's impressive. Looking at the entire draft class, I really like what the 49ers did. They double up on wide receiver in the first and fourth round. They double up on DBs in the second and fourth round. And then they grabbed a running back like they do pretty much every draft, and they attacked one of the strengths of the draft, which was interior offensive line. From a game theory perspective, as far as how to attack the draft, how to best utilize your assets to create the best possible team moving forward or get the best possible players moving forward, this is the way you do it. You attack specific positions, you double up where you need to double up, and you attack the strengths of the draft. They did that across the board. And then also just a caveat, the teams like the 49ers, really most teams that feature the run game heavily, they should draft a running back every year. Like, any Shanahan offense should be drafting a running back every year. The 49ers have been doing it for a while, so Isaiah Grando, we'll talk about him a little bit later, just another in a line of drafted running backs, and they crush it. They know what they're looking for at that position, and they do a really good job with it. We'll get to that. Maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse on that one, but let's go ahead and get into it. One of my favorite picks of their class, at least after the draft was finished, Ricky Pearsall out of Florida. I loved this pick when it happened. Obviously had a really unfortunate turn of events. I think he had an injury to start training camp, and then at a certain point he gets shot during a mugging attempt. He obviously is on IR for the first 6 weeks, doesn't get any kind of game action until week 7, and while that's super unfortunate with him and super unfortunate for the team, I think I really liked what we saw down the stretch. Don't really look at the stats. I don't think the stats are going to do him justice for his rookie season. Just 31 receptions on 46 targets and 400 yards, but he had a really strong finish to the season, which is what you always want to see with guys that obviously get a slow start, especially, but any rookie really. He had the exact kind of split from slot to out wide as I would have expected. Very on brand for the 49ers to have a guy who can play out wide, but also bring him in the slot a lot. They used him in the run game a little bit. At the end of the day, he looks like a 49ers wide receiver, which I think is exactly what you want to see. Now, obviously, the Brandon Ayuk injury was a big part of why he got on the field as much as he did down the stretch, but it's still worth mentioning that this is a team that they're paying 2 wide receivers. I would imagine that they're probably going to have to move on from Deebo Samuel when his contract is done, and it does feel like Ricky Pearsall can be that, eventual star of this offense moving forward. It's down the line, it's in the future, but I think we saw everything we need to see to be really excited about that. Next up, we have Ronaldo Green, who was drafted with the last pick of the second round out of Florida State. This is another productive cornerback on day 2. A ton of guys in that day 2 range were drafted in the NFL and have had really solid to good rookie seasons, and Ronaldo Green is right there on the mix. He ranks 41st among all cornerbacks, and as you can see, right there in the middle of all rookie cornerbacks so far. And if we take that list and rank it just based on pass coverage rankings, Ronaldo Green jumps up to the 3rd rookie corner in the class. All right, that's super special stuff, and it's worth mentioning that those 2 corners ahead of him are both nickel corners that are primarily playing on the inside, right? That outside corner skill set is just a harder to find commodity. It's just more difficult in general to find those type of guys that can do it consistently at the NFL level. Green looks to be one of those guys, and they found him with the last pick in the second round. So that's really special stuff and definitely worth having that context with it. That leads us right into probably their best pick of the entire class, Dominique Pooney, guard out of Kansas. He played tackle in college, but he was a guard for the 49ers. He is a day one starter at the guard position and a top 10 player on PFF, specifically the 7th ranked guard in the NFL. And you look at the names that he is next to right now, a really, really good list of guards, and he's right there in the middle of it. I did a rookie watch video on him really early on in the process during the season, just breaking down how good he's been, and he just never let up. Consistently putting up really good PFF ranking grades. Obviously, there's not really many stats you can have with an offensive lineman, but consistently showing up and showing out every single week. Big part of that offensive line. This is a guy who, after just 1 year, we know that this is a second contract guy. We know the 49ers are going to pay this dude, or somebody will at the very least. This is a dude. This is a dude at the guard position. They got in the 3rd round, and they found him from like pretty much the very beginning. He's just been a star. Absolute home run, slam dunk, one-of-a-kind gem that they found in the 3rd round. Can't say enough about stuff like this. I mean, look, these types of picks don't happen that often. I'm doing this for every single team, right? Like, subscribe, all that good stuff if you're interested. But seriously, not a lot of teams can say that they found anybody at any point in the draft that had this type of day one starting ability. They found this dude in the 3rd round. It deserves as much credit as you can possibly give it, because that is why John Lynch is where he's at. It's why the 49ers are the type of team that they are. I know it was a bad year. I get it. And we're going to keep going through this video talking about other guys that were productive for this team. But the 49ers are not going to be down for long if they draft the way they drafted this year moving forward. It's a bump in the road as far as this era of 49er football. It's a bump in the road. Overall, this is a really great team, ran the right way, finding the right pieces in the right spots. Let's go ahead and move on to some of the day 3 picks. We're going to primarily look at the 2 4th-round picks for the 49ers. Malik Mustafa out of Wake Forest is a safety and has started for the 49ers since week 6 at free safety. He's missed a couple games in that spot, but overall, he has been the main free safety for the 49ers. Another young DB getting in for the 49ers and starting at a really high level. This is a hard-hitting physical safety who's done a lot of things right for the 49ers early on in his career. He's getting really, really rave reviews by the coaching staff, and it does seem like he's just another guy that's going to fit into the 49ers plan moving forward. And then, of course, I did mention it earlier, but Isaiah Guerrero out of Louisville, running back pick, just 5 picks after Malik Mustafa, and this is a guy who, he just fits the scheme. He fits the running back scheme. The 49ers seem to kind of do it every year. And look, this was a pick the 49ers probably would have preferred not to need to have, not to want to have, or any of those things. But Christian McCaffrey has some injuries. Jordan Mason had some injuries down the stretch. And Isaiah Guerrero got his shot, and he showed that he can do everything that the guys in front of him could do, and maybe more. Probably not more than Christian McCaffrey, obviously. But, hey, really good player, fits the scheme. Just another guy that was able to, I mean, I want to give credit to the player, but let's just be honest. They know what they're looking for, and they usually find it, and it usually works. That's just what the 49ers do, especially at the running back position. They do it, it seems like, every year, and I love it. And before we get out of here, I do want to shout out Evan Anderson, a UDFA defensive tackle out of Florida Atlantic University. Hoot, hoot! Shout out Andrea, former FAU alum. Look, this is a guy who just been a rotational piece for the 49ers this season. Not a huge impact from the stat sheet perspective, but he's a defensive tackle. You don't ultimately expect a whole lot of that. But he is the 52nd ranked defensive tackle out of 132 total defensive tackles ranked on PFF. So he's doing something right. And again, not the biggest PFF stand by any means, but it's worth mentioning that a guy that's undrafted out of college ends up getting that high on the list in his rookie season. That's awesome. Just shout out to the 49ers. Shout out to Evan Anderson. Always want to give love to the UDFA guys. If you beat the odds like that, it's worth giving a shout out when I can. All right, guys, that's all I got. Thank you so much for watching. I know I already said this, but before I get out of here, one more thing. Last thing, I swear. And look, this is just to give some love to the fans. I know you had a rough season, and I get it. It's tough to watch a team that just went to the Super Bowl go 6-11 and have a really disappointing year. I understand that, but man, this franchise is special. This organization is special. You got the right guy at GM. For some reason, there was head coach trade talks in Mike Shanahan. That's fucking ludicrous. This is a special group. They're doing things the right way. You probably have the best coach in the NFL, Probably, I would say. I think you're in the conversation. You probably have one of the best GMs in the NFL. You're constantly finding really good players down the draft board. So that just shows your ability to scout for your team and for your needs, which is super, super important. They draft the right way from a game theory optimization perspective. They do all these things right. I'm jealous. This is just the Dolphins fan in me that's jealous. Like, I love everything about this organization. They're one of the most fun teams to follow for me, specifically for what I do. I love it. The future is bright, and you're going to have a lot more contending years than you are down years. And that's just the way it is. All right, that's all I got to say. Thank you so much. Let me know what you thought about this draft class, about the 2025 draft class. What do the 49ers need moving forward? Let me know in the comments. Those comments really help the algo. So if you did enjoy this video and you'd like to like and subscribe anyway, throw a couple of emojis in the comments if you have nothing to say, but it really does help me out. So I really appreciate it if you do that. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.